Okay, so picture this. A wife's living in the USA, but she's asking an Indian court to make her husband, who's back in India, pay her financial support. So can she even do that? Today, we are going to dive into a really fascinating legal battle that literally crossed continents, and it forced a court to answer a huge question. What's more believable, what you say or what you do? So right off the bat, here is the central puzzle the courts had to figure out. You've got the wife, Harminder Kaur, living her life in the United States. Meanwhile, her husband, Gurtar Singh, is in India, and she files for financial support. But she does it in an Indian court. I mean, that alone raises some big questions, right? Is that even legally possible? And, even if it is, does she really deserve it? Yeah, so this is not your everyday legal spat. We're talking about a transatlantic support claim. You've got two people living totally separate lives, thousands and thousands of miles apart, and the only things connecting them anymore, a marriage certificate, and this one lawsuit that's suddenly reached across the ocean. So how do we even get here? Let's just quickly walk through the timeline of events. It all kicks off back in late 2007 when their daughter is born in the US. For the next couple of years, the wife, Harminder Kaur, and the child stay there. Then, in 2009, she files that claim for support, and the first court actually shuts it down. But oh no, the fight is far from over. It climbs all the way up the legal ladder to the High Court, which is where the final decision comes down in 2011.
All right, so let's be super clear about what she was actually asking for. While she's living abroad, she files a petition in an Indian court, and in it she's demanding two things: financial support and money to cover her legal fees. So this wasn't just about day-to-day expenses. She wanted her husband to foot the bill for her lawyers, too.
Okay, so what does the law actually say about this kind of thing? I mean, what's the rule for maintenance? Can a spouse just ask for money during a divorce proceeding? Well, let's get into the specific legal rule that was at the very heart of this entire case.
The entire case really hinges on one specific law, Section 24 of the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, and its purpose is actually pretty simple. It's there to make sure that when a couple is in the middle of a messy legal battle, one person isn't left completely broke, unable to pay for rent or food or even afford a lawyer. You can think of it as a temporary safety net designed to level the playing field.
Okay, now you really have to pay attention to the wording here because this is everything. The law is crystal clear. This kind of support is not an automatic handout. A spouse is eligible only if they have, and I'm quoting, no independent income sufficient for her or his support and the necessary expenses of the proceeding. That one phrase, that is the key that unlocks this entire case. And this brings us to another super important legal concept, the burden of proof. See, the burden is on the person asking for support to prove they genuinely need it. So it wasn't the husband's job to prove she had money. No, the responsibility was 100% on her. She was the one who had to convince the court that she truly lacked sufficient income. So as you can imagine, this rule set the stage for a major showdown, the wife versus the husband. On one side, you have the wife's claim, I have no money. But on the other side, you have the husband essentially saying, forget our words, just look at our actions. And this really lays out the core conflict perfectly. So the wife's claim is simple. I'm financially destitute, I have no independent income, I need support. But the husband's rebuttal points to her actions. He says, look, she's been living in the USA for 2 years. And not only that, she had a return ticket to India that she never even used. Her actions just didn't seem to match her words. And it wasn't just about monthly maintenance. She was also asking for a specific amount, 2.5 lakh rupees as a one-time payment. And this money, she argued, was needed specifically to cover her litigation expenses, to pay her lawyers. So now the judge is in a tough spot, right? You've got these two completely conflicting stories. So what does he do? Well, instead of just taking her written claim at face value, he deployed what you could call a logic of conduct. He decided to look past the words on the paper and analyze her actual behavior to find the truth. The court was basically forced to ask itself a fundamental question. How do you decide who's telling the truth when it's one person's word against their own actions? I mean, what carries more weight? A claim made in a legal document or the reality of how that person is actually living their life? This is where things get really interesting. And this is the court's reasoning broken down step by step. It's actually pretty brilliant. Step 1, the laws test. The wife has to prove she has no sufficient income. That's the bar. Step 2, the admitted fact. Everyone agrees she's been living in the USA for about 2 years. Okay, fact.
Step 3. The logical inference. The judge reasoned that you just can't live in an expensive country like the USA for 2 years with a child without some kind of financial support. It just doesn't add up. Which leads to step 4, the conclusion. Her claim of having no income just wasn't credible when you look at her conduct.
And the court took it even further. This quote from the trial court's judgment is so revealing. They said, "This long stay in USA shows that actually now she does not want to live in the company of Gurtar Singh and wants to lead an independent life in USA." So you see, the court didn't see her as being trapped or stranded. They saw her actions as a choice to live an independent life. And, logically, a choice like that must have been backed by the means to actually do it. So, the court reached its decision. But this case is about so much more than just this one couple. Its impact, the precedent it set, well, that's why this case matters. It really changed things in Indian family law, and its influence is still felt today. So what was the final decision? Well, the High Court dismissed the wife's petition. They agreed completely with the trial court that she was not entitled to maintenance. The verdict was loud and clear. Her actions were simply more convincing evidence than her words. So, what's the legacy of Harminder Kaur v.s. Gurtar Singh? Well, it's huge. First, it establishes that a person's conduct is powerful evidence of their financial status. It confirms that the burden of proof is squarely on the person asking for money. It also helps prevent the misuse of these support laws, as a way to get money from someone while living abroad. For all these reasons, it's become a landmark case, one that law students and lawyers in India study very closely. And all of this leaves us with a really provocative question to think about. How should courts balance the written law, the black and white text, with the unwritten logic of a person's real-life choices? Laws are clear, but life, as you and I know, is messy. And the true challenge for justice is finding that perfect balance between what the rulebook says and the complex story our actions tell every single day.